Summer, 55 BCE, the river Rhine. Mist coils above the water like a living spirit, veiling the endless forests of Germania beyond. The air is cold and heavy, thick with the scent of pine and iron. On the southern bank, an army waits tens of thousands of Roman soldiers, their shields stacked neatly, their campfires burning low. Across the river lies the unknown, a land of shifting tribes, whispered gods, and warriors who fight like wolves. At the center of the camp, Julius Caesar stands upon a small rise of earth. His cloak, deep crimson, ripples in the dawn breeze. Before him stretches the Rhine, wide, violent, defiant. To the tribes who dwell beyond it, the river is sacred, a living barrier that no Roman dares to cross. To Caesar, it is a challenge. Rumors have reached his ears. The Germanic and Celtic warriors mock his legions. They call them machines of men, creatures that fight only in rigid lines and fear chaos. They laugh at Roman discipline, at the measured rhythm of their marching drums, at their polished armor and ordered minds. The Romans, they boast, would drown before they reach our forests. But Caesar does not laugh. He listens, eyes narrowed, his mind sharpening with each insult. He has already crushed the proud tribes of Gaul, yet the Rhine stands before him like the edge of the world, a place where even the might of Rome hesitates. He turns to his officers, his voice calm but edged with command. If Rome is to rule the world, he says, then no river, no tribe, and no god will stop us. The centurions nod. Orders ripple through the ranks. Engineers are summoned, scouts dispatched. In Caesar's mind, the plan is already clear: not to build boats, not to sneak across in the night like raiders, but to stride across the Rhine on Roman feet. The wind shifts, carrying the low rumble of thunder from the distant hills. The river churns, restless, as if sensing what is to come. Caesar watches it, unblinking. Let them laugh, he murmurs. They will soon learn what Roman discipline truly means. Behind him, hammers ring out for the first time. In the gray light of morning, the legions begin gathering timber. The impossible bridge, is about to be born. The dawn breaks over the Roman camp. In streaks of pale gold and smoke, the air hums with labor. Hammers echo through the valley, steady and rhythmic, the heartbeat of an empire at work. Along the banks of the Rhine, thousands of soldiers toil with disciplined fury. Centurions bark orders as engineers measure angles in the mud. Oak trunks, stripped of bark, are dragged by ropes and heaved upright into the torrent. The river resists violent, unyielding, but the Romans answer it with geometry and iron. Caesar walks among them like a man surveying destiny. His eyes are sharp, his cloak spattered with mud. Where others see chaos, he sees precision. Each cohort works as a single organism, saws cutting, ropes tightening, piles driven into the riverbed by weighted rams that thud like war drums. The Rhine roars back, swallowing logs, snapping ropes, testing the patience of Rome. Yet the legions persist. No one disobeys, no one falters. Caesar's orders have the force of prophecy. When a centurion reports that a section of the framework has been washed away overnight, Caesar doesn't raise his voice. He simply says, "Then we will build it again stronger." To him, this bridge is more than strategy. It is theater. The tribes across the water will see what Rome can do, not with magic or madness, but with order. The soldiers grow silent as he climbs atop a half-finished beam, the river foaming below. He speaks just loud enough for the wind to carry his words. Rome does not fear the river, he declares. Rome commands it. A murmur passes through the men. Their fatigue burns away, replaced by something fiercer pride. Days blur together. Rain falls, then sun returns, and the scent of wet timber fills the air. Blacksmiths strike sparks from anvils, forging nails and iron clamps by the thousands. The bridge grows with mechanical precision, anchored deep into the soil of both banks. 10 days, In 10 days, the impossible stands complete, a structure of oak and wool stretching from one world into another. The Rhine crashes beneath it, defeated but still roaring as if protesting its own submission. The soldiers stand upon the finished bridge in silence. For a moment, even the wind seems to pause. Before them lies Germania, wild, vast, and waiting. Caesar looks across the water, the faintest trace of a smile on his face. He does not see a river, he sees a road. Morning mist drifts low over the Rhine, veiling the bridge like a secret whispered between gods. Then a trumpet sounds, a deep resonant note that rolls through the valley like thunder. It is the sound of Rome awakening. From the camp, the legions emerge. Cohorts of disciplined men march in perfect rhythm, the earth trembling beneath their synchronized steps. Standards rise above them, eagles glinting in the pale light, their bronze wings outstretched toward the unknown. The smell of oiled leather, wet timber, and sweat fills the air. At the bridgehead, Caesar sits astride his horse, his expression unreadable. He watches the current swirl below, then raises his hand. Another trumpet blast. The first line of soldiers begins to march. The timbers groan, but hold. Iron-soled sandals strike the planks in perfect cadence. Shields flash like mirrors in the sun. The river that once divided the civilized from the wild now bears the weight of an empire's ambition. Across the water, Germanic scouts stare in disbelief from the shadows of the forest. They had expected fear, hesitation perhaps. A fleet of small boats creeping across the current. Instead, they see an army walking calmly over their sacred river. They've built a road, one whispers, voice trembling. Across the Rhine itself, the Roman drums beat faster. The wind carries Latin commands over the roar of the current. Horses clatter across next, the bridge trembling beneath their hooves. Yet no one falters. The structure holds not because the gods favor it, but because Roman hands made it so. When Caesar reaches the far bank, he dismounts slowly. The forest smells of damp moss and pine. He kneels, touches the soil, then drives his sword into the ground. This, he says softly, is no longer beyond Rome. Behind him, thousands of soldiers spill onto the German shore, forming ranks with mechanical grace. Their discipline itself becomes a weapon silent, unstoppable, unnerving. But Caesar does not come to conquer. He comes to send a message. For 2 weeks, his legions sweep through the frontier, burning enemy settlements, capturing hostages, scattering tribes that once boasted they were beyond his reach. There is no grand battle. No desperate stand, only shock and silence. The Germans vanish into the forests, unwilling to face the army that built a bridge over a river thought untouchable. Then, just as swiftly as they came, the Romans prepare to leave. The bridge has served its purpose. It has proven a truth far more terrifying than any sword, that Rome's discipline can reshape the world itself. Caesar gives a final order, his voice carrying over the roar of the Rhine. Destroy it. Axes swing. Timbers crack. The bridge collapses into the water below, swallowed by the current it once defied. Smoke and splinters drift downriver, the last remains of Rome's audacity. The soldiers watch in silence. Their bridge, their triumph, is gone, but its echo will travel farther than any legion. The smoke drifts slowly across the Rhine, curling through the morning mist like a funeral shroud. Beneath it, the river roars, swallowing the last fragments of Caesar's bridge. On the southern bank, the legions stand at attention, their armor streaked with mud and victory. Caesar watches the wreckage vanish downstream, his expression calm, almost serene. He has not built this bridge to hold, he has built it to speak. And now, its voice carries farther than any legion ever could. Across the forests of Germania, the tribes whisper in disbelief. Word spreads from village to village, from chieftain to chieftain. The Romans have walked across the Rhine. Not with boats, not with tricks, but with a road of their own making. The river that once belonged to the gods had been conquered by men, by geometry, discipline, and the will of a single leader. The mockery that once filled the tribal halls turns to silence. Those who had laughed at the rigid Romans now see that the discipline they mocked is a weapon sharper than any sword. They realize that this man, Caesar, does not simply fight wars, he engineers them. In the Roman camp, the soldiers begin to strike their tents. The rhythmic sound of hammers and hooves returns the mechanical heartbeat of an empire on the move. Caesar mounts his horse, the golden eagle standard glinting beside him. He looks once more across the river, toward the shadowed forests. "Let them remember this," he says quietly. "Rome does not cross rivers to conquer. Rome crosses rivers to remind the world who rules it." As the legions march south, the Rhine falls silent again. Yet something has changed, not in the water, but in the minds of men. For centuries, the river had marked the limit of Roman courage. Now, it marks the extent of Roman power. Stories of the bridge spread across Europe like wildfire. Merchants, soldiers, and kings speak of the feat with awe. Even Rome's enemies begin to measure their strength, not in warriors or weapons, but in the discipline they once ridiculed. Years later, historians will record it as a simple line in Caesar's Commentarii de Bello Gallico. In 10 days, a bridge was built across the Rhine. But the tribes who saw it will remember it differently, not as construction, but as revelation. For them, it was the day the world changed when order triumphed over chaos, and a man from Rome commanded nature itself to obey. The Rhine still flows, as it did then, but its waters carry the memory of that moment when the laughter of the tribes fell silent and the shadow of Rome stretched beyond its banks. The sound of hammers, the echo of marching feet, the glint of bronze over the mist all fade into legend. Only one truth remains. Discipline built an empire, and for 10 immortal days, it built a bridge across the impossible.